Welcome to The Next Level, conversations that propel business. The next hour is all about the entrepreneur, why they start businesses, how they make their businesses grow, how they overcome failures and achieve success. Your hosts are Bob Gibbons, founder of Riata Commercial Realty, a commercial real estate advisory and tenant advocacy firm, and Stephen Nooner, founder and CEO of Alkali, a company with a unique process that helps businesses more effectively buy and manage their insurance programs. Bob and Stephen will ask probing questions to find impactful solutions that will help take your business to the next level. And now, here's Bob Gibbons and Stephen Nooner.
Welcome to The Next Level, conversations that propel business. I'm your host, Stephen Nooner.
I almost did that instead of you, but you had already grabbed it.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Thank you. Hey, today, Adam Buttorff is our guest. I'm excited. By the way, I'm Bob Gibbons. I forgot to say that, but I think people know that.
Just in case.
So when we screw up, we just keep going, Adam.
That's how it works.
That's the plan. So that'll be the plan the whole time. Adam Buttorff is our guest today with Renown Roofing and Construction. And he's the founder and CEO. They've been in business about 6 years, and they've got about 24 employees. They're based in Lewisville, Texas. And I'm really impressed because he gave me a page with all the accolades, and I'm not going to read all these because this would take half the show, but some of the most important things: Pulse of the City Award 2014, 15, 16, Consumer Choice Award winner 15, 16, and 17. Inc. 5000 fastest growing companies. Not just, when I hear people say Inc. 5000, that usually means they're like number 4,998. Mm-hmm. But
which is still
it's still
further than
I am.
Riata is, right? So let's be clear before you poo-poo that.
Still a good thing.
It's still a good day.
I wasn't poo-pooing it. I'm just saying it's like the Inc. 5, what was it, the Forbes 500 and the Fortune 500 and all that. Anyway, but he was actually number 189 on that list. That's pretty incredible. So anyway, roofer extraordinaire, Adam Buttorff, glad you're with us today.
Welcome.
And
Thanks for having me.
You can go to their website, renownconstruction.com.
Great job, Bob.
Yeah.
We're rolling. We're
off to a
good
One of
start
my best.
Here. Yes. So the question is, Adam, was that planned mistakes by Bob, or the world will never know?
The world will never know.
Got to make it look off the cuff, right?
Yeah, very authentic. Speaking of authenticity, we love to start off with the wisdom of others because not all wisdom comes from us.
Amen to that.
The audience knows clearly
from that introduction.
Yeah. We have a quote that you provided from Zig Ziglar, and it says, we need to help others. Zig Ziglar said, when we need to help others because when we help enough other people get what they want, you'll get what you want. That's not the way I have it in my office.
That's not the way it's read. I was trying to make it sound a little bit more understanding.
Gotcha. And so why is that important to you, and can you
absolutely
clear it up?
Because I've always had the thought of this is my parents always taught me this growing up is if you help up enough other people get what they want, stop looking out to your own needs, stop being selfish. Mm-hmm. If you build enough other people up, you'll eventually find yourself exactly where you want to be. Mm-hmm. And so that's a big philosophy of mine.
Yeah, I like that as well because it's all about. I heard a podcast yesterday of somebody talking about it's more important to be friends with your clients because if you can be friends with somebody even before they're your client and prove to them that you care about them as a person, then maybe business will come back to you. But if you just go after them just to make the sale, that doesn't work, and people can see through that.
It's like the old saying: people they don't care about how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, this, like I said, it threw me off a little bit because we have it a little bit different in our office, but this was something that I referred and looked to often as we started our company, and it's been, really changed into our first core value, which is beyond the golden rule, right? It's just treat others the way you want to be treated. That's what we want. Everyone likes buying, but nobody wants to sell or be sold, right?
Sold, right.
So,
for sure.
So I was interested to see that you're a former, or I was about to say former, but a competitive sand volleyball player.
I know I look like a former. No. Thanks a lot. Appreciate that. I'm feeling the love here.
that was purely accidental on my part. But so do you still play that competitively?
I do play competitive, yes.
So where do you? I mean, is this like a league or what?
Yeah, there's leagues in all over the Metroplex.
So you weren't in the Olympics or anything?
No, not even close. I play competitively for the local market, and so I can still maintain that level a little bit most days. But no, not to the level of like nationally or anything like that.
So you're pretty tall. How tall are you right now?
6'4".
6'4". Okay, so I mean, nobody can be competitive in that sport, I wouldn't think, below a certain height. Yes.
Well, you'll find that some people, as long as they can jump and are very fast, I've seen people at 6 foot and play nationally and on the AVP tour, and it's really impressive what they can do.
So
6 foot, Bob.
6 foot. There's hope for you.
So yeah, well, at a gangly 5'8", I don't think it's going to happen now, especially not at 55. Well, so tell me about your first entrepreneurial endeavor.
You know, I was in the 5th grade.
Wow.
And people think, wow, but I've always been an entrepreneur, wired and thinking. And so I'll never forget it. It was my birthday, and my mom comes, what do you want for your birthday? And I said, Mom, I want bandanas. She says, okay. I said, no, I want every bandana you'll buy me.
Wow.
As many as you'll buy me. She says, I'll never forget it. I went to Miller's Outpost. Y'all don't remember this store because it doesn't exist anymore. And she bought me 20 bandanas because bandanas were hot back then. And what I did, I wish I had a picture of this. I wrapped them around my arms and legs and wore them to school.
Wow.
And then, so you bought them for like 50 cents. I sold them for $2 a piece. And I sold out first day. I did that like 6 times.
Oh my goodness.
Bandanas.
Bandanas.
So
it's the whole aspect of I saw a need. I'm like, ooh, I can feel that.
Yeah.
So did you grow up here in the DFW area?
I did. One of the few you find. I'm a native Texan.
Native
Nice.
Texan. Where'd you go to high school?
DeSoto High.
Okay.
My first house ever was in Cedar Hill, right next door.
I lived in Cedar Hill for a while too.
Very nice. So, so you made some pretty good profit margin on those bandanas.
Great profit
Launched
margin.
your IPO.
Launched absolutely. If I could maintain those profit margins, life would be fantastic.
Why'd you get out of the biz?
The need dried up, so I went to something else.
Fashion changed.
Fashion changed, and I couldn't stay on top of it.
So I am curious. So I mean, you said you've always been an entrepreneur. How do you go from bandanas to roofing? Seems like an interesting.
It is, and people ask me all the time, "How'd you get into roofing?"
Yeah, or why did you get in roofing?
Yeah, well, when I was in high school, I dreamed of being a roofer. Doesn't everybody?
Yeah,
exactly.
Right. I mean, I was going to be an insurance agent.
Nobody dreams about that. It's the doctors and veterinarians and those things. So it's how God works out. So a funny story is I've only had 3 actual jobs working for other people my whole life. And the last one I had, I got fired from.
Oh.
Because it was a corporate job.
Okay.
I lasted 3 months. It was impressive.
What were you doing? Or what weren't you doing?
All right. 90 days.
See, I'm more of a get it done versus do it how you want me to do it. That's why I'm, I guess, an entrepreneur, because I'm all about the end result, not so much the trail to get there. Mm-hmm. And they put me in a position that I was not wired for, and I told them I wasn't wired for it. But they said, okay, you can learn this and then eventually move up to somewhere you are wired for. And so I was in an administrative position, supporting a sales role, because I'm a natural salesperson. That's what I do. That's what I've always done. And I was not good at it. But truthfully, I had to be humbled. I needed to get fired before I would be okay for my wife to say, you know what, you need to look at doing some roofing, because her brother-in-law did some roofing. I was like, at this point, I'll do whatever. Dig ditches, whatever it takes, right? That's kind of the mentality. So I jumped in the business. I said, okay, I'll do this for a few months until I figure out what I really want to do with my life.
So you just went to somebody and said, I want to work for you?
I went to her brother-in-law and said, hey,
okay,
hire me. He said, okay, sure. Long interview process.
Yeah.
So what'd you do for him when you first got there?
So I sold for him, sold for the company.
For
So how do
90
you-
days or longer?
Actually, I sold him for a year and a half.
Okay.
And it wasn't until I realized I was 70% of the revenue of the entire company that I said, you know what, I probably should start my own.
Wow.
And how did he handle that?
He totally knew it, understood it. Matter of fact, the owner gave his blessing, says you'd be a better business owner than I would,
Wow.
That's amazing.
which is really amazing. And
That's super amazing.
which is crazy. And so everybody in the industry that I've been a part of or seen, it's really been enjoyable. Since starting, it's been this crazy trajectory. Like you mentioned, we hit the Inc. 500 list. That was one of my goals eventually. I didn't realize I would actually, I thought I'd be one of those like, oh, I'll get there 4,998, right? I'll squeeze in there, and we hit the Inc. 500 list.
Wow.
So it's crazy, just crazy growth.
So let me ask you, when you initially started as in sales and roofing, was that commercial buildings or residential buildings?
Start off as residential.
So how do you sell in that business? Are you knocking on doors?
You're knocking on doors. You're working your referral list. You're working referrals from current clients. You're networking, doing networking meetings. I mean, it's basically about getting to know people.
Okay, because it's not an industry that has the highest level of integrity associated with it.
I like how you say
I'm
that.
Sorry to say.
Oh, believe me, when I got into it, I was like, this is the wild, wild west.
Yeah.
This is nuts. You have to be licensed to have a barber to cut your hair, but not to put a roof on your house.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It is crazy.
And that's what's crazy about this industry is I've searched out every certification, licensing, accolade I can possibly get because there's no licensing to differentiate yourself. And it's a distraught industry.
What? Why is that? What?
I love Texas. Okay, don't get me wrong.
Sure.
We are a state that does not want a lot of regulations and stuff, and I'm for that.
Yeah.
I am pro, business, but there are some things that need regulation, and so this is one of them that desperately needs it.
And some of the industry organizations are doing that. So I noticed that you say that you're a licensed commercial roofer from RCAT. RCAT,
Yes.
What does that mean?
Roofing Contractors Association of Texas. They put out a license that you have to take that you're actually a licensed residential roofer and a licensed commercial roofer. And there are actually some cities who will not allow you to actually get a permit to put a roof on unless you have this license, which is great, which is what we're pushing for because the state won't do it, but maybe we can get the cities involved to do it. So we have some cities that are doing that. Most aren't. But it's a way to differentiate yourself we've been tested, we know what we're doing, versus what we call the Pete in the pickup truck. Or the barber one day says, I can be a roofer the next day.
Sure.
But I mean, these roofers finish a job so fast. If they don't even pull a permit, would the city even notice?
You'd be amazed.
I mean,
Several got shut down over the past 2 years. Several in Plano got shut down last year for they weren't a legit business, and they were what they call waiving deductibles when it comes to insurance claim stuff and doing some shady
for that,
stuff.
right? I mean,
yeah, you can get jail time as well as fines. It's sad because I want to set the industry apart, but there are some great companies in the industry.
Sure.
But there's a lot of how do we say it politically correct?
Riffraff.
Riffraff.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of riffraff, station has to pay a few bills. We're going to take a break.
Good way.
Hi, this is Bob Gibbons with Riata Commercial Realty. If your office lease is going to be expiring in the next year or two, the one thing I would tell you definitely do not want to do is exercise a renewal option. Now, that may sound a little nuts. When you negotiate for that renewal option, why wouldn't you actually want to use it? Well, the reason is because while you want to have one as a reservation for your space so the landlord can't lease the space out from under you, that option may not actually work the way you want it to now. It may have made sense 5 years ago, but it doesn't today. The only thing that changes when you exercise a renewal option are the expiration date and the rent. But you may want to do other things like have another option to renew, have an option to terminate or expand. You may want to be able to expand now or have a new base year for your operating expenses. There's all kinds of things that need to be considered. So we recommend that you renegotiate, not renew. For more information, contact me, Bob Gibbons, at texastenantrep.com. That's texastenantrep.com. Welcome back to The Next Level. We're here today with our guest, Adam Buttorff of Renown Construction, and you can find them on the web at renownconstruction.com.
So you're working for your brother-in-law?
Yes.
And
with him, actually.
Yeah, with him.
Company,
and he blesses you, along with the owner, to go do something new. You just get out and just hustle. Obviously, you've been selling. I mean, did you have to form all new relationships? Were you on the roofs doing the roofs, or did you? I mean, like.
Yeah, it's interesting. So my family's all in construction, but they're actually the labor side of the construction.
Okay.
And so when I tell my family, when I started the roofing company, he's like, man, I can't. God bless you, brother, because that's rough work. I'm like, I'm not the one actually hammering the roof on there. You realize that, right? There's crews that do that. I have that. I'm not the one doing that. I have put one on, which most people haven't, partly because you need to understand your trade.
Yeah.
So I've actually put a roof on, but that's not something I do every day. So yeah, it's interesting that, when we first started, my first office was my living room.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, working out of my living room, that's how it starts, right? And then kind of building from there. And so I was what they call the jack of all trades, wearing many hats.
Mm-hmm.
I was the dishwasher as well as the salesman and everything else.
So early on, were you contracting your crews? And I see you have
Mm-hmm.
24 people, so you're just like you'd get something and you'd contract a crew to get
Yep,
the job
I'd
done.
contract it and then manage them. I'm big on management. That's the big fallacy in the industry in any construction. Most people don't have great construction experience
Mm-hmm.
as far as on the receiving it from a client perspective, because it's contractors are terrible. That's just kind of the industry norm. And so I've set out to differentiate that by, I've got 24 staff,
Mm-hmm.
and most of them are support staff. Like I've got crazy things. People are like, you have a crazy amount of staff. I said, yeah, because I want a client experience that wows them. For example, I've got a lady that all she does is call you as a client every single week. And she's all bubbly. I call her worlds of sunshine.
Every week during the project?
During the process, from start to finish. No matter how long it takes, you're going to hear from her every week.
Okay.
Just, hey, how you doing? What's going on? Make sure things are going well. So that way, you feel taken care of, as well as we're knowing if there's an expectation we're not meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know if y'all know this or realize this or not, but all conflict comes from two things: unmet desires and unmet expectations.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the expectations we don't even know. And if I can't pull expectations out of you, I've got to constantly be asking you.
Sometimes they don't even know,
Most people don't.
right? How often? In Texas more lately, but like how often? How often are we replacing roofs? For a typical person, it's not like it's a daily purchase experience, right?
It's not. The average roof in Texas, the Dallas Metroplex says it will last 7 years on a basic roof, unless you go really high end.
Yeah, if you have some sort of really like 50-year roof or something.
50-year roof or steel roof or stone-coated steel, or on the residential side, and the commercial side, it'll last 20
So
years.
of the 24 people that you have on your staff, how many of them are actually climbing on roofs versus the support staff you're talking about?
The actual climbing on roofs is very small. It's 11.
Wow.
Everybody else is support staff.
See, that blows my mind, because normally you have a really small office staff
Yep.
and a much bigger crew out in the field.
Yep.
So you're just the opposite of that.
Yeah, when people come to my office, they're like, this office is huge. I said, I've designed it this way because, I was told early on that, do you want to be the Motel 6 or do you want to be the Ritz-Carlton? Now, the Ritz-Carlton has a lot more staff and a lot more difficulties and really wow clients. But guess what? They're not hurting for business.
Okay, so that must mean that you're going after a different kind of client than the standard roofer.
For
so
sure.
Tell us what that looks like.
So basically, we're looking for clients that our ideal client is someone who is, of course, owns their home or owns their building. So there's residential and commercial. And then really is looking for someone that's full service, who understands the insurance process very, very well, has staff on that are specifically trained in different aspects of it, who understand the construction process, who manage it, who maintain that. And then, so homeowner would own a house that's over $250,000 and up, and is looking for someone full service.
Mm-hmm.
Like myself, if I want something done at my house, I don't want to have to sit and manage it and ask questions about a bunch of little things and make sure it's all good. I want someone to manage that for me and do it well.
So does that mean that your pricing is going to be significantly different than the routine guy?
Here's what's interesting is when it comes to an insurance claim, so insurance pays for it.
Right.
That's the beautiful thing behind that. If it's an insurance claim, all you have to do is choose the right contractor. It's not about price, because the only thing you're concerned about is your deductible. After that, then it's just if you want to upgrade or change things, but the bulk of the construction is taken care of by your insurance.
But doesn't the insurance have some sort of standards that they say this
Yep,
ought to cost X?
Yep, absolutely. And I'm going to educate you a little bit on this. So God bless them, they're in the business to make money, so I'm not mad at them for this, but here's what they do to clients, okay? The average insurance claim, when it's paid out, so if you have anything, water damage, hail damage, whatever, when it's paid out at anywhere between 20 to 30% less than what's actually owed. We come in and just keep them accountable. We have the exact same software they use. It's called Xactimate, and keep them accountable to what's actually owed based on codes, based on manufacturing codes, and just keep them lined in with that. And so we get our clients significantly more so they can actually get the proper system of whatever they're doing than most clients out there.
Some of that depends on the insurance company and how they operate, for sure.
And most insurance companies are, like I said, I'm not mad at them. They're
Yeah.
in the business to make money. When they pay claims, they don't make money. And so we're just here to keep them accountable.
So whenever somebody comes and knocks on my door, which happens so
All the time.
frequently, it's ridiculous, and they say, hey, you need a new roof or whatever, and then they say, we'll just do it for whatever insurance pays us, and you don't have to pay us your deductible.
Run. If you'll look in the news, I think it was Channel 4 News, I believe, last year during the storm that happened last year in Plano, they caught 3 contractors in Plano area and fined them because they were doing exactly that, because it's illegal to do that.
Yeah, and it's illegal not just for the roofer, but it's
But for
illegal
the
for
homeowner
the
as well.
homeowner. It's actually fraud.
It's insurance fraud and can actually land you in jail, possibly.
For the homeowner too. What's also interesting too is what we see a lot of times is the pop-ups, right? So when you have a storm come in, and then everyone comes either from out of town or they like pop up and hey, we're going to start our roofing company. We were washing cars yesterday, and now we're
Yeah, exactly.
we're now your roofing specialists. And so the like those are things that we see people like, and as the agents, we're trying to make sure that they are using reputable companies, right?
Sure.
Do you guys get much of your business from the insurance companies ever?
We do sometimes. We have agents that refer business to us because we just take care of their clients.
Sure.
But typically, I don't like to be negative on insurance companies, because I don't, because they're a vital aspect of what we need as far as our lives and bring us
Yeah.
back whole.
Sure.
But they typically don't. We're not in their preferred programs because we have to accept whatever pricing they give us.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, we can't make sure it's done up to code and proper specs. We have to do it for whatever they say. So we don't like to cut corners. We just don't. And so we typically don't do it that way.
Mm-hmm.
We have agents that refer us business because they know we take care of their clients, but direct from like the insurance carriers themselves,
Sure.
not so much.
Okay, so I'm not sure I understand then. Based on what you just said, earlier you said, though, that, I'm not having to pay for it all. It's being paid for by the insurance. So if in your situation, are you just saying that if you're a, quote, preferred, that you've already agreed to a certain pricing?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we talked about the discrepancy between the initial estimate versus what's actually owed.
Uh-huh.
That discrepancy, I can't go after if I'm a preferred with the insurance carrier.
Gotcha.
I'm not allowed to. I have to accept whatever they say.
Oh, I see.
Versus my good conscience, I've got to take care of the client. And so if they allowed me to do that, I would do that, but they don't,
Yeah.
generally.
Yeah, I mean, I had this situation not on my roof, but with a water damage inside the house. And yeah, the number that they originally gave me, the estimate for the insurance company, turned out to be much lower than what it turned out to be.
Exactly.
But, the contractor was the one that dealt with them and,
Yep.
and showed them why they should pay more for certain items.
And
they did quickly.
and ultimately, it comes down to this: it's not necessarily they're doing it on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to be very clear about that. It's just a lack of education from the actual adjuster out there. They're not in the construction industry. They don't necessarily know every aspect of how to get this thing back to where it was before the damage happened. And so that's why we come in and are the experts in that. So that's very true. That's a common thing that happens.
So what's the big difference when we get to commercial buildings and roofs? How does your business model change when you're dealing with those people instead of homeowners?
It's a little significant. So one, the numbers are significantly larger, so insurance companies bring in engineers. So we have engineers on site that we work with to back up our claims. We're prepared before the adjuster appointment actually happens. Like, we've got it all laid out, the documentation, our professional reports, not just from us personally, but actually professionals like engineers, because the insurance company is going to bring them too. So that you have to have that kind of power behind you to get ready for that, because we're talking big numbers when it comes to commercial buildings, of course, and so you've got to get it right.
So it's a lot more technical. And
It's a lot more
people
technical.
looking at it.
You really got to understand the systems, because there's several systems out there. There's a lot of liability when it comes to commercial. Imagine if we roof this building here. Can you imagine? It would take probably at least a month to do the job, and then the traffic coming in and out, you got to protect it and coordinate everything off, and so it's a lot to go into it.
And how much of your business is new roofs being put on a building for the first time versus re-roofing something that's already been there?
We are not big fans of new construction.
Really?
We do not do new construction.
Why?
Truthfully, there's no margin in it, and it's high risk
Now,
as a contractor.
why? Explain that.
Well, the reason is because the big developers, where they make their money in doing the development, is finding the cheapest work possible. That just is what it is. They're not about quality. And so if they're not about quality, they're not my client.
Okay.
So that is not a client of ours.
Interesting. That surprises me because I look at some of these like high-rise office buildings, big industrial buildings. You think, well, those are really good quality. They've been built well. And
Well, have you ever heard the term builder grade?
yeah.
Does that sound high end?
But I usually hear that in relation to residential. It doesn't.
It's the exact same in commercial.
Interesting. Okay.
Now, there are some exceptions. So please hear me. There are exceptions in there. But there's a reason it's called builder grade.
Okay.
Exceptions for everything, right?
There is for everything.
All right. We're going to take another break. We'll be back after the break.
Hi, my name is Fern, and I've been an empowered team member at Alkali for over 5 years. I first learned about Alkali through an online job board and was intrigued to learn that Alkali was a Dave Ramsey endorsed local provider. But what captivated me was Alkali's mission statement, which is closely aligned with my own beliefs. So what's kept me at Alkali for over 5 years? First, Alkali's 5 core values match my own. Second, I've been empowered to use my unique abilities to impact our community, our clients, and Alkali. If you'd like to learn more about becoming an empowered Alkali team member, visit our website, alkaliservices.com. That's ALKALI services.com.
Welcome back to The Next Level, Conversations That Propel Business. We're here with our friend Adam Buttorff of Renown Construction at renownconstruction.com.
So on the break, Adam apologized to me. He said, "Hey, I just want you to think, and I, told him, and I thought it's worth the audience here. It's like, hey, insurance are insurance companies, and they're going to do, what they need to do to make their model work, right?
Absolutely.
And a lot of times we're advocating for our clients to just make sure, 'cause again, a lot of times it's just people, and you can have that in any business, and it's the adjuster doesn't get, back in touch with them, or they get lost in the shuffle. And so a lot of times we're walking along with the client to try to make sure that claims experience is going as smoothly as possible, right? In regards to what gets paid or doesn't get paid, we don't always have a lot of impact or control over that, but we're advocates for the clients on that part. But one of the things we also discuss, and I think is sad because the client ultimately loses, is there's a trend within our industry where, we used to be able to make referrals no problem. Now, best practice from every E&O carrier, in our professional liability, they say, hey, don't make, no matter how great they are, no how much you like them, don't refer Adam, right? And because
Don't refer anybody.
yeah, because don't refer anybody, right? Because it can come back on you. And I just think we're in such a sad state as a country in general when we're so worried about.
And you know
being
what I say to
sued all
that?
the time?
I
Very
say
litigious
screw it,
society.
because you know what part of the reason clients hire me, I think, is because of my network and people I know and people that I can help them solve. I mean, I gave a referral this morning to a commercial appraiser.
Yep.
And so I mean, if I went and asked my E&O provider if they like that,
Say no.
We're going to have
So
you
wait, you mean
canceled
there's
this
an attorney
afternoon,
who
Bob. I
doesn't
just
like
need
you
to tell
doing
you.
something?
but guess what? I'm not going to go ask them either. So, hey, Adam, one of the things, there's no perfect company, right?
No.
None of us are perfect, so mistakes are made.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's really how we respond to those mistakes that matters. So give me an example of where you guys have screwed up and what you did to
Come
fix
on,
it.
Adam, tell us. Where have you
I
screwed
got
up?
no problem telling you that. I'm an open book. So
Other than
I've got
agreeing to come on the show.
I've got a philosophy in my job. Our company is this: look, I don't care if you make a mistake. I just don't want to see the same mistake twice. Let's learn from it. I'm never going to yell at you or get mad at you when you make a mistake, no matter how big. So I'll just be honest with you. One of the big things when it comes to roofing is water leaks or water damage. So when you're roofing the job for a pop-up storm to happen. So that instance happened on a $2.5 million house. 0% chance of rain. And it was the whole perfect storm aspect. Our supplier had a huge flu run through his distribution, and so he had no one to load the materials that morning, so our materials were late. And the pop-up storm happened right at like 9 a.m. We just got the roof ripped off. We have no materials on site. And guess what? Boom, water pours in.
Oh, man.
And we came back and said, okay, we flooded your $2.5 million house.
This is your house, right, Bob?
Yeah, it's your house, right? So
Never
what
mind.
what did we do? Most companies would just say, sorry, we're going to run from that and take off. Nope. I got all hands on deck, and we fixed everything back to perfection to the tune of almost $200,000 out of my pocket.
Oh, so wait a minute. So insurance doesn't.
I consulted my insurance advisor, and he says, based on if you make this claim, what it will cost you over the next 10 years versus what it cost you now, he goes, your choice,
Wow.
but he goes, I would spend the money. So I did.
That's really amazing. And I feel bad for roofers because I see that, and all of a sudden I see these giant blue tarps come out whenever it looks like it's about to rain. I'm thinking, how do you know how many tarps to have in the truck?
Oh, yeah, we tarp the entire house, but water gets in sometimes. And so that being said, we put things in place now that won't ever happen again.
So, yeah, so what do you do different now?
So measurements we put in place now is from our distributor, if it's ever going to be late, we're notified immediately via text message. My program manager, my project manager on site. So he knows if it's late, they even know it's going to be late because they knew it at 6 a.m.
Right.
But they didn't
Yeah.
tell us. It was lack of communication from them.
Sure.
So ultimately, it's their fault.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, one or the other, ultimately, it's my fault because
Yeah.
we're the one doing the work. So
Right.
That's the way the client's going to see it.
yeah,
Right.
and that we took care of the client, and guess what? That client gave us a raving review.
So do you tear off roofs now before the materials are on site to replace them?
We do because that's our guys get there around 6 a.m., 6:30, and so start to tear off. Generally, our materials show up before 8 a.m.
Okay.
And so if it's going to be late before 8 a.m., then they let us know, and we get what we call dry-in materials there. So that will never happen again.
Wow. Well, that's a big lesson. And I imagine that the profit on that roof job was not 200,000, was it?
Nowhere close.
Nowhere close. Oh, that is so. So, what is the biggest challenge in running a roofing business like yours?
It's within any business. Business is business, no matter what kind of business you're in. And so it comes down to people, right? If we didn't have people, the
Sure.
business would be great, right? Because you have clients that you have to make happy. You have to have employees you may have to make happy. And so it's constantly juggling the aspect of making the clients happy, which is a fun part of the business for me that I enjoy, but also making our employees happy and putting a nice growth plan in place. Because we're a smaller company. We're not, this billion-dollar company. So to have growth plans for every single individual, from my assistant answering phones all the way up to my vice president of operations, that's a challenging aspect because they always want to see growth, and I'm big on growth. I have book clubs every week with my staff inside because what I've learned is if I tell them to do something, they'll kind of sort of halfway do it. But if we read a book about how important it is and the benefits of it, then they get all on board with it.
Wow.
So that's kind of things I've implemented.
What are you guys reading right now?
So we are actually reading right now is the growth mindset.
Yeah.
Something about the growth or the fixed mindset. So we just started that new one. We just finished the 1 Minute Manager, working on redirects, which I know my staff loves and are actually really excited about.
So when you're talking about staff and growth, I mean, and you've already mentioned earlier that you have really very few people that are actually putting on the roofs. You're contracting a lot of that out. Is that because of like what's happening here? Because I mean, across the board, all the trades. I mean, everyone seems to be short staffed, so that's probably a hard group of people
just to help
manage.
you understand, educate you a little bit on construction in general. I don't care whether you're putting a roof on or you're building a building. 95% of all construction is subbed out and then managed because you have guys that are really good at their trade, but they stink at everything else, like communications and expectations and all those things. So we manage them to make sure it's done properly, but they're very good at their trades. And that's all they want to do. And so that's typically how most construction happens all over the Metroplex, no matter what it is. You're building a brand new house, all the work is subbed out.
But whenever I see an individual subcontractor, so the roofing contractor would be considered a subcontractor to the general contractor if you're building a new building.
Yes.
I've heard that within the individual subcontractor that you want to make sure that they are actually hiring employees, not
absolutely.
contract labor.
No.
because it has an impact on whether or not they're really covered for insurance and whether or not I, as the homeowner, am covered.
Absolutely. So all of our guys, all their people are on staff. They're employees. They're all employees as far as the labor
Of
force.
the subcontractor. Okay.
And he forms a company, and so we have a contract with him, as well as performance expectations, as well as we manage them. So I've got a project manager on site on every project to make sure implementation is done to my standards.
So that's your project manager on your payroll.
Yes.
And he's supervising the subcontractor, and that subcontractor has employees, and they have their own insurance, et cetera.
Yes, and I have insurance on them as well.
Right. I was going to say some of it depends on how the insurance is written. So.
Okay.
Yeah. You definitely have to have insurance.
So subcontracting is not a bad thing by definition.
No.
It's just the way you manage it. And
No, and it was just my
insure it.
curiosity around it is just that from a standpoint of retaining that group of people right now in Dallas, the way the growth is and everything else, that's a tough group to manage. I was recently talking to a guy whose son was having a house built out in Prosper, and it was moving along the timeline, and someone came out, and this is framing, but someone came out with a truck and said, "It will give you $200 if you'll walk off the job, and I'll pay you $2 more an hour." The whole crew
bolted.
walked right off the job.
Oh, my goodness.
Right, and so like literally his house stalled, and that there was a significant builder.
When we had another guest on the show a while back, Matt Monero of Commercial Fleet Financing, and he told me that the same thing with truck drivers, that if you go to a truck stop, there will be, quote, recruiters at a truck stop, and when a guy pulls up in his truck, he'll say, $500 if you'll leave that truck and come with me, and they'll just leave the truck running and just walk away and go somewhere else.
And that's what's
work.
interesting about the industry is for the new guys starting up, that's a big problem.
Mm-hmm.
We've had our same crews. Most of our crews just work for us, no one else, because we keep them so busy.
Gotcha.
And there's loyalty built in. I've even built in bonus structures for them to help maintain loyalty
Sure.
and also performance of work.
So how many roofs do you do a year?
We'll do 400 to 500 roofs a year.
Wow. That's a lot, because I mean, so when somebody, well, let me go back to the question of, you were saying that when you started off, you were knocking on doors, door to door,
absolutely.
neighborhoods, and I get that all the time, and I have a very negative impression of that, because my concern is that, hey, this is just some fly by night. They're not legit. They're not real. But it sounds like maybe that's not really the case.
There's when it comes to anybody business, there's several avenues of getting new business. Okay, one is what we call direct marketing or door knocking. So that is a method of getting business, and we do utilize that. It's a part of our methodology. It's not a major one, but it is a part of what we do.
What do you find to be the most effective in getting new business?
Referrals,
Yeah.
bar none.
From
Getting
who?
our current clients referring us out,
Okay.
bar none. Absolutely the absolute best.
Yeah, I see people in my neighborhood, whether it's through Nextdoor or the Facebook page for the neighborhood, constantly saying, I need a good lawn person, I need a good roofer, I need a good painter, whatever.
We get more business off
Yeah,
referrals
and
than any
I
other.
would tell people all the time, ask your referrals. I don't do anything without asking for a referral. And if I don't have anybody that has that thing, I'm looking at reviews. Look, I mean, it's like 350 reviews on my website. Look at reviews.
Wow.
What clients have said, and that's what you should do.
Yeah, we look at reviews all the time for travel, places to stay,
Everybody
everything.
does.
It's just a whole new world when it comes to reviews. It's
Absolutely.
Movies, everything.
Yeah,
Everything's reviews nowadays,
and it should
as
be.
you should.
Yeah, it's just a more efficient way of doing it. All right, we're going to take another break. We'll be right back.
Stick around.
Okay.
Hi, this is David Lancashire. I'm the CEO of Project 202, and our company helps design and build better experiences through software. I got the chance to meet Bob and Steve today. Wow, that was an experience.
We're back with Adam Buttorff.
Say that
Nice
again.
try. Nice try.
Yeah. With Renown Construction, you can find them at renownconstruction.com.
And by the way, you can call them at 972-QUALITY.
Because quality's important.
It is important, but how in the heck do you get that phone number? That's pretty amazing.
It's funny. It took me 4 months, and 3 of my staff coming to me going, "We can't get it." I said, "No, we will find it, and we will get it." Matter of fact, I had a lady on the phone from the phone company. I said, "I can have this number." She says, "No, you can't have it." I said, "If I'm the president of the United States, I can't have this number." She says, "You cannot have this number." I said, "Watch me. I'll get this number."
And this is what phone company you're talking to?
I don't know. I talked to so many at the time. I was talking to any and all of them.
Maybe that was the problem.
I was talking to all of them at the time. So I found a workaround and finally got it.
That's amazing. I wouldn't even know where to start to get a number like that.
That's why it took us 4 months.
Yeah, probably. So what was one of the biggest personal sacrifices you made in starting Renown?
The biggest thing is the first 3 years of the company, and I've always known this, when you start a company, and most entrepreneurs get this, the first few years, I mean, it's a struggle to make any money.
Yeah.
So it's all reinvesting back in. So I literally paid myself minimum wage.
Wow.
I mean, truthfully, here's the honest truth. I had real estate as well. So I was selling real estate. Thank goodness I was selling I had a bunch of rental houses.
Okay.
So I was literally selling those, living off the profits of those for the first 3 years.
So you're making less money than the guys on the roof.
Oh, yeah. Everybody in my staff made more money than I did.
And of course, I don't imagine they even knew that.
No.
I mean, that's that's the part about entrepreneurism. It drives me crazy when I see people in the movies and in politics, talking negatively about people that own companies, and they act like we're all a bunch of rich fat cats that don't care about everybody else. And quite the opposite is true.
That's always the ones who've never done it before.
Good point.
They say that if you never want to have critics, don't do anything.
Yeah.
If you're going to have critics, then you're going to do some things. And so they don't get it. They think it's like Tiger Woods, for example. Oh, he's an overnight success. He was the best golfer in the world at one point. He's been golfing since he was 3 years old.
Yeah. Yeah. I just read the autobiography of Andre Agassi, and I mean, his father had him on a routine where he was hitting 1 million balls a year.
I mean,
can you imagine 1 million balls? And this, I'm talking when he was 7 years old.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
And he hated tennis, and who wouldn't? I mean, you're 7 years old and you're hitting 1 million balls a year.
Yeah, my boys wouldn't want to do that either.
No, I'd hate it as well.
So, I mean, obviously, you guys have had a lot of recent success in 500, and all the accolades that we talked about earlier. Let's talk about something tough, like something that. Let's talk. What's the biggest low you've had in the last 12 months?
So I lost my wife to brain cancer right before Christmas last year, and she battled with it for a little over a year.
Oh, that's fast.
And so
That is fast.
it was quick. It went from life is great, no issues, seizure. She has brain cancer. They actually gave her 6 to 8 months to live, and she lived 13.
You guys are young.
Yes. Well, thank you. Yeah, and so I mean, it's just God has walked me through this process, through the healing of it, realizing, we just watched that movie, God's Not Dead, and God is good all the time, and all the time God is good. So, and I believe that, even though I'm grieving and my boys are grieving too, God has really been faithful to walk through with this on me and help me realize His faithfulness of the past.
So what's the first step whenever you realize this is happening and it's not going to end the way you want it to? I mean, what is the first thing that you do to start learning how to deal with this?
I always recommend counseling, so grief share is a great aspect. It's all over. But I would honestly tell you is without community is, we've got other couples in our lives that know us intimately with, we meet regularly with, that have really walked through this with me. I could not have imagined doing life by myself, isolated.
From your church or just
From
other
my,
friends?
yeah, from my church, from Watermark Church. And so they have plugged in my life. They've fed us. They've come over. They've taken my boys out. I mean, it has been an outpouring of love for me. So I've seen Christ's visible love for me and how others have served me.
Yeah.
Which has been amazing.
Interesting. So the other side of that is how do you keep a business going in the face of that kind of
Here's the
tragedy?
benefit. It's like we talked about the quote starting off with. You invest in enough other people, you'll get what you want. Okay, once they get what they want. My staff rose to the level. They come up and stepped up. They worked late. They worked harder. They implemented improvements to help me so I wouldn't have to do as much. They really stepped up their game significantly.
So you'd invested in them so much over the previous years, it was time for them to give back and
and they
develop
did
that relationship.
Lovingly and willingly. They didn't even ask them. That's what's been amazing.
Wow. I can't even imagine what you're going through. So, we're very sympathetic and so sorry, but it's amazing that so much good can still occur in the face of such tragedy, and, with your friends and your employees and all that kind of thing. And what a great demonstration for your boys who,
Absolutely.
How old are your boys?
Boys are 10 and 9.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
So a lot of great sharing and open conversations, and it's been really, really good. There's a song out there that goes something like, sometimes trials are God's mercies in disguise. And so it's about perspective and how you look at things.
Yeah, and not that God's causing any of this, but
No.
he can still turn tragedy into
Absolutely.
beautiful things. And your boys are going to remember how people treated all of you throughout this process. So
Yes, and I'm able to help others as they go through difficult situations just like this, as one of the benefits.
And
interesting.
he's strongest when we're at our weakest too.
Yep.
So
For sure.
So whenever,
thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
yeah, one of the hard parts of this is people don't know what to say in
They
this kind
don't.
of situation. So, I mean, having lived through this very recently, what's the appropriate way for somebody, whether it's a personal friend or a business friend, to approach and talk to you about something like
Here's
this?
the best way. Don't try to come up with pithy statements or deep thoughts or, don't worry about that. Just come up to them and say, man, I love you. That sucks. Let me love on you. Hug them. That's plain truth. That's all we need to hear.
Yeah. Because my whatever little quote is never going to make a difference.
No.
So just shut up and hug and love.
And
you.
one thing you don't do is say, oh, all things work for God, for those who love him, for good. Like, okay, I know that, but I don't need to hear that right now.
Yeah. Or
I'll eventually get it and I understand it, but in the moment, that's not what we need to hear. We just need to hear you love us, this stinks, and man, let me love on you. Let me feed you, or whatever.
yeah, I heard a story about a preacher who was preaching a funeral and said, well, Jesus wanted your mommy, and so he had to take her. And the little girl was like, well, I needed my mommy too. So it puts God in such a bad light.
For sure.
When you start telling people that kind of stupid stuff, I can't imagine it.
And people struggle to know what to say and how to say things.
Yeah.
And I would just encourage you, don't try to be, this great thinker and have this great statement. Just tell them you love them and it stinks.
Wow.
That's great perspective for sure. And I could definitely see myself as the person that would make some stupid comment. So
Before this, I probably would too.
yeah.
Yeah, and of course nobody's doing that on purpose,
Oh,
but
no,
it's
of
out of
course
their
not.
They just
feelings
don't
of
know what to
inadequacy, and yeah. Well, so where do you go from here? What's next in your life and your business, that kind of thing?
In business-wise, my goal is we've hit a great benchmark as far as revenue and Inc. 500 list and all that kind of great stuff. My goal over the next 3 to 5 years is to maintain it well. Because what my heart and goal is to have an environment of a business where people work, they have a great career, and they love it. It's a fun environment, but it's a very productive environment where people enjoy coming to work. I don't micromanage. I'm not a micromanager, and so I never have. And so it's about just empowering them to grow themselves. And for me to sit back and see the growth pattern for them, and us as a company to grow to where we've done such a good job recognizing and wowing clients that they start referring to us naturally.
Mm-hmm.
We just started this new program. It's super exciting. We just did our very first one on Friday, which will be coming out. We have called a Client of the Month.
Client of a month.
It's called Client of the Month. Some client that's really wowed us on how they've just communicated with us and been understanding, and we just really appreciated them. So we've not only given them a sign that says, hey, Client of the Month, we also are giving them a cruise for 2.
What?
To
Wow.
say thank you. Just to say, because you know what? I want more clients like you.
All right, so what do I have to do to get on this list?
Which is exactly what the
I'm
response
gonna
I
go throw
want from all our
golf balls
clients.
at your roof.
Wait a minute. Let me clarify first. Where's the cruise to?
Anywhere you want. There's like 7 different cruise lines and
Wow.
all over the place.
It's a booze cruise.
Yeah,
It's a
on Lake
cruise. It's a
Louisville.
cruise on the Lake Louisville. That's what it is.
That's pretty incredible, though. I mean, because
So-
these are clients that you've
Already didn't work for.
already had, not ones that you're about to get
Nope.
new business from.
And it's a philosophy of Walt Disney. He said, make that so profound that when they come to you, they can't help but tell others about it. And so I'm working on making that a philosophy in our company. And like I said, we just installed this. So many people spend all the money to get the client to your door, but no one spends any money once the client's here.
So how are you going to decide which is the client of the month? I mean, is there a process around this?
There's a process around it, and it's based on staff voting. So staff has to vote on these. So we have a list of like, hey, everybody put your recommendations and why. Because a client, and they go through our process, will touch 5 to 6 different people. And so they all get their feedback on who they think the best client is and why. So it's their perspectives.
Interesting.
That's great stuff.
But you haven't awarded the first one yet?
We did. We just awarded the very first one on Friday.
And what was the reaction from the client?
The wife was in tears. The husband's like, oh my goodness, we were looking, our anniversary's coming up. We didn't know what we were going to do. And this is exactly what I want.
Yeah, of course, because now he's off the hook.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, you saved the day. That's what I want.
Well, Adam, thanks so much for being on the show with us today. We've really enjoyed it. Thanks for being very open and honest and transparent with us. That's been great. For our listeners, please go to 972-QUALITY, call that number, or go to renownconstruction.com to learn more.
If you heard something that someone else needs to hear, please help spread the word through all the social, and have a great week.
See you next week.
Thank
Bye.
you.